AITA for protecting my son's identity? I'm going to tell you a story that still leaves a strange ache in my chest. It's a story about family, identity, and how even the people we expect to love us unconditionally can sometimes be the ones who hurt us most. My name is Jordan Castillo, I'm 24, and I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm of mixed heritage. My father was Mexican, my mother is African American, and my girlfriend Aiko is Japanese American. We've been together for almost 5 years, and a few months ago we had our first child. A baby boy who changed everything. We named our son Haruki. In Japanese it means shining sun or spring child. And for us the name held deep significance. After a long, stressful pregnancy and a few terrifying moments in the delivery room, he came into the world on the first day of spring, crying loudly, healthy, and perfect. Naming him Haruki felt right. It was a symbol of new beginnings, of resilience, of warmth after the cold. And most of all, it honored Aiko's late grandfather, who had been a pillar of her childhood. We were over the moon. Our friends loved the name and Aiko's family was touched. But then came the part one never expected, the way my own mother reacted. First it was small things. Micro comments that could be excused as ignorance. When we told her the name over a video call, her smile was frozen and strained. She repeated it once, slowly, like it was a foreign object in her mouth. Then came the classic, "That's different." I knew my mom had certain biases. She grew up in a conservative neighborhood in Georgia, and though she'd done her best to be supportive through my life, there were always hints of her struggling to fully embrace other cultures, unless they were distant enough to romanticize. I'd seen her praise Italian opera and French cuisine, but the moment something felt too foreign in her own backyard, she grew uncomfortable. Still, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she just needed time to warm up to it. But it didn't stop. Over the following weeks, her comments became more pointed. She told my cousin at a family gathering that we were naming the baby something from a cartoon. She joked during a phone call that people would never be able to spell it right. Then one night she texted me a list of strong baby boy names like Jason, Michael, and Ethan, saying we still had time to reconsider. That message hit a nerve. Aiko was next to me, feeding Haruki, and I could see in her eyes the hurt that bloomed behind her calm demeanor. She didn't say much. She rarely did when people were offensive, but her silence said enough. I replied bluntly to my mother, telling her that we chose Haruki because it mattered to us, that it wasn't up for debate. She replied with a "just trying to help" and a smiley emoji. I left it there. I shouldn't have. A month later, my mom came to visit. It was her first time meeting Haruki in person. I wanted to believe she'd see him, hold him, and something would shift. Maybe the love of a grandchild would overpower whatever hesitation she had. Maybe the judgment would disappear when she saw his little face, how peaceful he looked sleeping with his tiny fists curled up beside his cheeks. But it didn't happen that way. She walked in, glanced at him in the crib, and said with a laugh, "Poor thing's gonna spend half his life correcting people on how to say his name." Then she added, "Why didn't you just call him something normal? Kids can be cruel, you know." The air in the room seemed to collapse. Aiko looked down, pretending to be busy folding a baby blanket, but her hands had gone still. I stepped in. I told my mom as calmly as I could that her comments were not okay, that this wasn't just about a name, it was about respect. Respect for our child, our choices, and for Aiko's culture. But she brushed it off with that same old line. "I was just joking. Don't be so sensitive." She stayed for half an hour. Felt like an eternity. After she left, I stared at Haruki sleeping in my arms, and I made a decision. I didn't want my son growing up around that energy. I didn't want him learning to question the beauty of his name, his background, or the identity we so lovingly wrapped around him from birth. And most of all, I didn't want the people who were supposed to love him most to make him feel like he didn't belong. So I stopped bringing him around my mother. I stopped texting her photos of him. I didn't say it out of anger. I said it out of necessity. I told her that until she could genuinely show respect for our choices as parents and the heritage that shaped our son, she wouldn't be part of his life. She didn't take it well. For weeks, she sent messages ranging from apologetic to accusatory. One day it was, "I'm sorry if I offended you." The next, "You're keeping my grandson from me over a name?" She told relatives I was being cruel, ungrateful, turning my back on family. One aunt even called me, saying, "You know your mom raised you alone. Don't you think she deserves to be part of your child's life?" But what no one seemed to understand was that this wasn't about a grudge. It wasn't about revenge. It was about creating a space where my child could grow up proud, unapologetically of who he is. Of every part of him. The real twist came a couple months later. One afternoon, Aiko and I went to a community event celebrating multicultural families in the city. There were booths, music, food from around the world, and even a small ceremony for parents to share stories about the names they gave their children. We were hesitant at first but eventually signed up. I told our story, the story of Haruki, of Spring, of legacy, of the fight to protect his name. After the event, a woman approached us. She was older, probably in her 60s, and had been part of a local advocacy group for interracial families. She said something that stuck with me ever since. Sometimes, the hardest thing about being a bridge between cultures is knowing which parts of your past to carry forward, and which to leave behind. It was then that I realized I wasn't just protecting my son from my mother's words, I was breaking a cycle. A cycle of small-mindedness disguised as tradition, of ignorance dressed up as concern. Weeks passed. My mother stayed distant. Then, unexpectedly, she sent a handwritten letter. No jokes. No guilt trips. Just a quiet, thoughtful apology. She wrote about her own upbringing, her fears, how she never realized how her words might cut deeper than she intended. She wrote about how she'd been wrong. And for the first time, I believed her. We arranged another visit, but on our terms. We met in a park, open space, neutral ground. She held Haruki, and I watched something shift in her expression. Maybe it was time. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was just finally seeing him as a person, not a name. She didn't comment on his name once that day. Instead, she brought a small origami crane Aiko's mother had once told her the meaning behind it, and my mom remembered. So, was I wrong for putting my foot down? No. Because sometimes protecting your child means standing up to the people who raised you. Sometimes love means drawing a boundary so the next generation can live with more dignity than the last. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say, "This ends with me."
NTA. Your child, your choice. If your mom can't show basic respect, she doesn't get access to your family.
Esh, your mom was wrong, but did you give her a real chance to learn? People can grow if given the opportunity.
YTA, kinda. Cutting off your mom completely might be too extreme. Maybe a conversation could have helped.
NTA. If someone disrespects your child, even family, it's okay to set firm boundaries. Good on you.